I'm Karen,
And I'm Mae.
and we are going to talk about.
From Boomers to Gen Z.
Oh, and we are from Boomers to Gen Z. Sorry. I thought you would know us by now. So we're gonna talk about loving two people at the same time. So don't go away. Could be juicy.
So, Karen, because you have more years of experience, I'm guessing that you've had more people. Has there been situations where you've loved two people at one time?
Yes.
And how does that feeling work? Do you love one more than the other? Is it like a checklist or
Yes. So I'm being cheeky. I'm talking about my children, and yes, you can love more than one person in this case, and I love them dearly. But depending on the day, there are days where I want to check one of them, or just want to go with one of them more than the other. But I think I'm suspecting you are asking this question on another level.
Yeah, like that's the whole point. Knowing about the love for your daughters isn't juicy. We're having a juicy talk today. So two romantic loves.
Two romantic loves. I have never been in that situation.
Okay.
Maybe because for me, I'm someone that if I'm committed in a relationship, then I won't allow that from myself. That's the standard that I put in. But saying that, I have had experience via friends whereby they were kind of in that
Choosing.
the conundrum of whether they can't decide because they truly fell in love with two people for different reasons at the same time. So are you in that situation?
Now, no, but I've been in that situation, and it's been
tell
very
me.
long since I actually spoke about it. I think now is a good time as well because I just hit the 3 year mark with my current boyfriend, and he's part of the story. So when I had my son, when I had Zaki, actually me and Zaki's father had broken up,
Okay.
and then I found out that I was pregnant.
Okay.
So we had already broken up, but we were still in that difficult to break up stage, still talking, still fighting, the very toxic phase. And I came back to Penang, and when I came back to Penang, I was staying in my parents' house, and like I started to get to know like my school friends again. I was hanging out with them. Of course, you're going through a breakup, so your friends are like surrounding you. And my current boyfriend actually brought me out on a date. Little did he know that I was pregnant, and I didn't tell him.
Oh.
So it was like that phase of like, oh, what am I gonna do? But then I need to tell the father of the child. What am I gonna do? So I actually ran away from Penang. I like left the whole situation. I didn't tell anyone where I was going, and like about 4 or 5 months later, I had a baby. So I guess that answered all of his questions. And I remember being in that situation, and I do think that I love two people at the same time. I loved my current boyfriend for all of the things that I wanted in the future that I wanted to have, whereas I loved Zach's father for all of the things that we already had and to try and make this work. Because that's what we're taught, right? To make it work when you've made certain decisions.
Yeah.
So I think I did, and I did love two people for a very long time. And it actually ate me up inside because it's like both have, like, one is a future that I want, the other one is like the future that my child should have, having both its parents together. But I guess God has its own plans. He messed things up by himself, so I was able to leave. But I do remember that feeling, and I thought it was crazy. I talked to my mom about it, so I was like, I feel so strongly for two people. And what my mom told me at that point was very strong. She said, "Well, feeling strongly for a person actually isn't love. It just means that it could be responsibilities, you could be checking boxes. It's just a strong emotion,
Exactly.
but it's probably not love, because if there's love involved, love should not be. There shouldn't be so many people, romantically at least."
Exactly. I think your mom is very wise, and it is true because I think you were caught in that obligation and responsibility. And yes, of course, you loved him to some extent, but love with a good partner should be someone that lifts you up. It shouldn't be such a burden to make that person happy. And I do think that sometimes, I mean, in any relationship, whether it's a friendship or just a casual get together kind of thing, any relationship really, you want to have people it's an easy get together, meaning you don't need to be somebody else. You don't need to behave a certain way. It should be you, the authentic you. And it should be very easy, and you should feel like, wow, okay, I had a really nice evening. I was just in my pajamas and no makeup, and we had such a good time. I think that's the thing that I look for even today, all the time, with friends and people who actually lifts me up, as well as, of course, you have to lift people up too. You cannot be one way street,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And you have to do your share of it. But it's something that I think, in a romantic relationship, I don't know, I mean, that's my view, where I think you will know who has more pros than cons.
Yeah, yeah.
You do know. And I think I can say some, most women have this thing where they like the bad boy image, because that gives you the excitement, and he makes your adrenaline flow, because he makes you think and do things totally out of whack, even if it's bad things. And then because you are running on that adrenaline, you're like high and you want to be adventurous, so you do all those things. But as a person, is that making you a better person? Or is it that someone who is like very stable, very centered, very sure of himself? But yeah, okay, in the conventional term, maybe a little boring, but it's that conventional part of it. Whether, but you know that there's certain certainty, certain significance in that relationship. So actually, the decision is you, because you are in that little bubble thinking, oh no, I like this, but I don't know whether I want to have this.
Yeah,
Am I right to
yeah,
say that?
yeah. It really is like that, and like I think that even if you go back to like being in high school, I don't know if this is like a stereotypical thing, but you know how girls always come in groups of three,
Or we go to the toilet together. Okay, go.
and like when you're in those like friendships, even right, like especially think back to like early high school, you have like your favorite of the week, and then suddenly this person upsets you, and then your favorite becomes another person, and then it's like these two people leaving this one out.
Right.
So if you even think back to how we structure our relationships, it's always like we're never very inclusive of all, which I don't think it's a bad thing, because if not, one woman or one man would be dating multiple
Yeah.
at a time. We're very singular in that sense, in the way that we pick and choose. Like there is favoritism, and when you have kids or multiple kids, I guess that's when you maybe that breaks. I always wonder, because I only have one kid. I don't know what it could be like to love two, three, sometimes five
Yes.
without having favoritism.
There's always moments of favoritism, I have to admit. There's, depending on what's the phase, and you go, ah.
Yeah, so see, and I think it's just like a human thing, and like it comes down to like romantic partners as well. And I know a lot of girls out there, so if you're listening to this and you're like you're in a relationship and you kind of have a crush on that friend or that person, and you're just keeping it inside, but you also know that your relationship is not really feeding you, like you should actually tap into that. Like don't ignore it, don't feel obligated because it's like, oh, I've been with him for so many years. Like actually like answer those questions. Maybe you don't need to jump into another relationship, but maybe you just don't need to be in one.
Yeah,
You know?
and it's okay not to be in one for
Yeah.
a little while, just to kind of find yourself, which we have been saying that, with May's experience and my experience, that we truly believe that until you find your own joy as being yourself, and that you are happy on your own, you should never rely on someone else to bring you that kind of happiness. So when you have that happiness on your own, you will find the right person,
You'll
or dog,
attract,
or
yeah.
that could be that joy that you actually need. You may not even need all the other things, isn't it? Yeah. And so talking about that, I'm going to digress a little bit. In your view, do you prefer a monogamous relationship?
She's using big words.
Do you prefer a relationship where it's a one-to-one, or you prefer one-to-many kind of a
Or like poly.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. No. I'm very monogamous. I think that like once I set my heart into someone or something, like I stick to it. Like I would consider it long relationships because I'm quite young, right? But I do stick to it until it really forces me out the door. And if there's one thing that I could rewind and redo, it's like to not be forced out the door, because a lot of the time within the relationship after the first year I already know, and I just sort of stay. And when you do that, you're doing it to yourself and you're lying to yourself, and like you waste time that you don't have to necessarily have been spending with another person, but time that you could have really spent by yourself developing yourself. Yeah, I think being monogamous, there's like being monogamous, which is like a nice thing, oh, you're the one for me for life. And then there's also like so being quite stuck in this situation and I shouldn't get out. Like get out if you want to.
Right. I had this conversation with a young person not too long ago, and she's been with her partner for 7 years. And at one stage, she asked me that was the one and only relationship that she's been for almost 8 years. So it's pretty long,
Yeah,
and they're
that's really
happy. But because it's the first and only relationship, and she questioned, is there other things that I should look out for? Has that ever occurred to you? Like if you have been in a relationship for a long time and you're wondering, I am happy with this relationship, but wonder, should I venture out and do something
take a
else?
gap year.
Although you're happy and everything, then the question came to her head and say, am I supposed to pause this relationship and discover someone else or do other things? I couldn't answer because I have never experienced something like that. But if that's the only person that you've been with and you don't know,
Maybe you're happy because you don't know how else you could feel. Like because there's nothing to compare it to.
but she is happy. Maybe it's that moment of, I think that's where we talk about the 7 year itch, because that came about that 7 year where we talked about relationship changes, human beings change, like it's a cycle of 7 years. And then she started questioning and say, is it time to look, although she's truly happy, but just wondering, is that question of, should I look for something else, do something else?
I think that like if I would say yes, I would say go for it because like if you take a break and you come back together, you come back stronger. But if this goes on, could you imagine for like another 10 years? Or like even another 5 years, this wonder, it builds up a frustration.
That's what you think. Maybe you take a break now, but then when you do take a break, there's always the risk of that relationship not working out,
Yeah.
right? So what do we do? What do you guys think about that? But at the same time, I felt that she took a really good stand where she had a conversation with her partner and said that, look, we've been together, I'm happy, but we're feeling this. I love that the fact that she had this open conversation and they both agreed that maybe they shared with each other all the things they love about each other, and they made a commitment to try to do different things, excite each other with different things that they do or activity. So it boils down to communication,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So share with us, what do you think if someone were to be in that situation, whether they should give a break or not, and let us know so
In the
that
comment section, and then we can engage with you. Also, you can drop your juicy story.
yeah, tell us your juicy story if you have been in a relationship, a romantic one, and kind of cannot decide. Maybe we can help you there. All right, so don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us on our channel. And we'll be back next week.
Everything that we say here is just our opinions. We're just having some fun and engage with us so that we can keep doing this. And yes, we will see you next week.
Bye. Hi, everybody.